Okay, so as soon as we start to break away from scales as fret numbers 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4, 6, 7, we can start to think of intervals. So root note, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, root note. We then open up a conversation with other instruments, but then also as we begin to learn the bass guitar, we can start to open up around the fretboard, so we're not limited to a particular position. So I know that I can start to move around the fretboard. So we can now see how learning and viewing what we're playing in terms of the intervals rather than a particular shape on the fretboard is going to open up our playing, and it's going to give us the foundations for a lot of the other theory that you're going to look at. It really is going to open up your playing. It's not your fault that you're not good at theory. This is single-handedly the biggest thing when you understand it that is going to unlock your playing. So intervals, learn the 12 different intervals. There's only 12 to remember, so just learn it. You want to start playing it on bass and starting to hear what that sounds like. So perfect fifth, major 7, flat 7. Okay, so this is how I'd start to practice it, and you can get other people to test you as well and test yourself. Major third, and then start listening to other songs to start working on that technique. So you've learnt a song or have a chart for a song, but you want to play it in a different key, or the singer you're working with wants it to move it in a different key. Okay, or maybe you're playing in church or something and the keyboard player has taken it somewhere else. Okay, here is the one thing you must absolutely learn in order to be able to play in any key. Take a song and play it in any key. It's a simple method, takes a little bit of understanding, but once you've got it, it saves you tons of time when we come to moving things to different keys. Now, in order to understand this, you need to understand the major scale. Okay, so last lesson we spoke about the major scale and the intervals, the different letters essentially. We spoke about the intervals, which is how we spell a major scale. Okay, so if you're still unsure of intervals, you should go back, look at the intervals, but follow the lesson through and just hear it out. You're going to want to make sure that you really have a good grasp on intervals and what they sound like. It's important to know our major scale is made up of 7 notes. Okay, root note, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, and then you're back to the root note again. The notes repeat round. Okay, now on each one of those notes we have a chord, because we never just play in a song. A song is never just single notes. Okay, so I'm currently playing the 2nd note of the major scale, the 5th note of the major scale, and the 1st note of the major scale. Now we need to know that there is a particular chord type that comes on each note. Okay, so we've got different sorts of chord types, and there's lots of different ones in music, but for now we'll just focus on major 7, minor 7, and dominant 7. So these are going to be the 3 that we're going to start with. Okay, and when we get to grips with this for this exercise, you'll then be able to see how we move the chords around. Okay, so our major scale, let's take it to C actually, let's take it to C. So we're in the key of C. We've got a really cool shortcut that is gonna cut down the time in learning songs and changing keys. So we've got the letters C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Now what we can do is, we can underneath that write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So replace the letters with numbers. We've got the major scale and we've put the numbers beneath it now. Now what we do is, we can adjust it. So let's recap. So if we're in the key of C and C is 1, the 4th note of the C major scale will be F. Okay, C, D, E, F, 4th note. 5th note will be G. 2nd note would be D. And I'm just doing this in a random order here. And then 3rd note would be E. So now we've attached a number to it, we can also learn what chords go with each number. Okay, now because it's a pattern that repeats in music anyway, we know that these chord types on each number will stay the same no matter what key you're in. So we're currently in a C major scale. 1st note of the scale has a major 7 chord. 2nd note of the scale has a minor 7 chord. 3rd note of the scale has a minor 7 chord. 4th note of the scale has a major 7 chord. 5th note of the scale has a dominant 7 chord. 6th note of the scale has a minor 7 chord. And 7th note has a half diminished. Now, this stays the same no matter what scale we go to. If we are in the key of E, the chord from the 1st note of the scale will always be a major 7 chord. The 2nd note will be a minor 7 chord attached to it. The 5th note will have a dominant 7 chord attached to it. 7th note will have a minor 7 flat 5 chord attached to it. Okay, so now we should be able to see how it all begins to come together and how we can then quickly learn to transpose a song. Because if I was to play, let's go back to the key of C. So let's say we had D, G and C. So D is the 2nd note of the C major scale, and we know that on the 2nd note of the C major scale we have a minor chord attached to it. Yep. Then the 5th, G is the 5th note, which is a dominant 7 chord attached to it. So here's that dominant 7 sound in there. And then C is the 1st note, the home note, the root note of the scale. And that's a major 7 chord attached to it. So together that's lovely stuff, right? Now, what we do is we take that information, and what we can do is we can leave out the names of the chords altogether. So rather than say we're gonna play a D minor 7, G dominant 7 and C major 7, we can say we're gonna play a 2-5-1 in the key of C. Now some of you will be nodding along now because you've heard of people talk about things like 2-5-1 before, and this sound should be familiar. It's often used in jazz all the time. So this is then where the number system comes in, because if I now say we're playing a 2-5-1, I can quickly change this to... So let's go to A major. The 2nd note in a major scale will always have a minor 7 chord attached to it. So in the key of A, 2nd note, B, and let's put the minor 7 chord into it. Let's play a B minor 7. And then 5 chord, dominant 7 on the E, and then the 1 chord, major 7, A, 2-5-1, minor 7, dominant 7, major 7. So we can take this around to all sorts of different keys. Now, rather than me having to sit there and actually think about all the different chords and the notes and finding all the different root notes, if you've just got all the chords written out, it's a lot more complicated to change key, or can feel a lot more complicated to change key if it's not just lowering everything by a semitone. If it's quite a jump, that can get very difficult to do. It's not quick to transcribe songs looking at the chords like that. Whereas if you're viewing it using the number system, it's very easy to play a 2-5-1, especially on bass, in any key. 2-5-1. Okay, key of B flat. B flat up here. E flat. A flat. So you can see how easy it is to quickly change key using this technique. Learn this and all the chords attached to the number system, as we've done it here for the major scale. This is going to be your key to transposing songs. In the future lessons, in the lessons coming, I'm also going to show you how we use the number system when we get a chord that isn't in the major scale. What do we do if we get a chord that isn't in the major scale, isn't found in the major scale? How do we do that? The number system works for this too, and there's specific ways of going about it to making that work as well, which I'll get onto and show you guys. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson as well. There's going to be so much more content coming your way. We're going to rip through some stuff, we're going to rip through some licks. There's going to be plenty of content here for you. Look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.